Jack and I are going to discuss the video we just dropped regarding Antonin Scalia and his support for convention of states that the John Birch Society straight lied about. Then we're going to get into some monkeypox. What the heck is this thing? And is it the next emergency that they're going to try and save us from? Lastly, we're going to get into some COS talk. We've got some updates in Ohio. The hearings have started. The debates have started. And man, did it bring out all the doo-doo-doos. Our favorite doo-doo-doo, Publius Holda, was in attendance. We'll get into that, and the dismantling will begin now.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to ride. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Has the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hello, everyone, and sorry for yet another doozy where, for whatever reason, Facebook keeps breaking our link literally seconds before we go live. I say Facebook because the stream goes fine to YouTube, the stream goes fine to Twitch, stream goes fine to Rumble, but for whatever reason, right before going live, Facebook drops the stream. So I apologize to those of you who hit the get reminder on the event and then did not see the broadcast or had to go search for it after. That being said, Jack and I have finally set a time. So Wednesday nights at 5:30 is going to be the staple time that we end up doing live broadcast, barring any crazy current events or crazy stuff that happens. That's where we're going with it. So every Wednesday, event notification or not, we're going to be going live 5:30 Pacific time. Pacific Daylight Time, right, Jack?
Yes. Thank you, George. I learned that.
We had a bit of a dispute over PDT or PST, and then 8:30 East Coast time. So, Jack, did you get a chance to watch the Scalia video that I dropped with John Birch Society?
Yeah, I did.
So,
and it's interesting.
It's a big deal. I want to get into that in a minute, but I first want to hear from you. I know you've been looking into this monkeypox thing, and I kind of wanted to start with that topic. And then after this, we'll get into the John Birch, and then we'll get into the updates from Ohio for convention of states, which were interesting and kind of fall in line with the Birch story. But so, like, Jack, with monkeypox, so I hear monkeypox. I hear that they want to redo masks again for monkeypox, and I'm like, dude, nobody has monkeypox. Like, it's like it was like 1,000 people, like out of 320 million. Like, what's the scoop with this? Where are they going with this?
So it's anybody's guess where they're going to go with this. The approach I took, George, was to go back and look at the history and the writings about monkeypox and see if it was consistent to the message that they're delivering today, right? And thank you. I just saw that message that came across. Better background for me. So
I think they meant your ethnic background.
Yeah, I know. So so I wanted to go back and take a look and see. All right, is this message? Hello, Sheila. Is this message consistent, with what they put out? So here's what I found. So when I went back and looked at articles, what I know now is that the monkeypox was first discovered in the 1950s. It was limited to just animals. And it really doesn't come from monkeys. It comes from squirrels and some other rodents. And then it's transferred to monkeys, which in the 70s is when it first began getting transferred to human beings, or the first discovery of it being transferred to human beings was in the 70s. And by and large, the amount of transmission was from either scratches or bites. There was some type of you either ate it or you were out in the wrong place and you got scratched or infected in some way, from wild animals. And then it was transmitted, but predominantly in the home. And so that was in the 70s. Now, it didn't really start to evolve until the 80s. And they found that it was impacting predominantly children, which everyone started scratching their head over, right? What they found out, and bear in mind, this is all centralized within the Congo basin of Africa. We're not talking a widespread situation here. It's specifically in the Congo basin, West Africa, so forth. So when they found out it was impacting the children, they started going back and taking a look at it. Well, it's very closely related to smallpox. And in the 1980s, once they beat smallpox, they stopped giving the smallpox vaccine just, by and large across the board. So people that were of a certain age weren't getting the monkeypox. It was just the younger ones that hadn't been vaccinated against smallpox. Okay, so that's kind of the backdrop.
That's what I heard. I heard that if you had the smallpox vaccine, but I didn't know they stopped giving the smallpox vaccine. Because don't they still have like a culture of smallpox in like a high security laboratory somewhere where like, everyone's scratching their head? Like, why would you even keep that in existence?
Well, I'm sure they do. Why do you keep Ebola around, right? It's like I wouldn't keep it in my kitchen cabinet. But whatever their
just let it
purpose is,
go.
yeah, burn it out. But who knows? Maybe that's what they use to create a vaccine. I'm not sure the rationale behind it. All I know is that it was eradicated. So they stopped the massive injections in Africa, and that's when the kids started coming down with it. There's two versions, one from the Congo Basin and one from West Africa. The one from West Africa is a little bit more deadly, but the case studies are not large enough to really look at it and say, okay, that's a significant amount of cases to say, yes, this is the survivability of this. Go ahead. Right. It looks like you want to ask a question.
Just from the standpoint of like, so I mean, from what I understand now is that the CDC has lifted that. Like first they came out and said they wanted to redo the mask mandates for travel, and then now they've turned it because of monkeypox, which was making me scratch my head. And now, from what I understand, what you were telling me is that's no longer the case, right? Like,
right. And by the way, George, one of the signs of monkeypox is scratching your head. So you might want to don't do that on an airplane. Yeah, they'll kick you off. So really the people that I don't know where that came from. It is, from what I've read, it's transmissible, via human contact and through bodily.
So this is a joke then. This is like not a joke, but like, it's another insignificant wannabe emergency. So if they start talking about this like it's, like, oh my God, everyone has to fear monkeypox, it is what I thought it was. Initially, it was like,
the people that are at risk, really, for the most part, are going to be your healthcare providers that are taking care of somebody that's had it. Now, just as a point of reference,
but don't they have to like eat the patient in order to get it? Like, how does that work?
No, if it's passed by bodily fluids. So
they got to make out with the patient.
Pretty much, or they spit in your face or whatever, right? You can get it.
These nurses.
Yeah, so that's where the mask piece of it came in. But for the most part, from everything that I can read, it requires constant reintroduction of the animal component for it to continue to spread. So we had an outbreak in 2003 of the monkeypox here in the United States. And it was because they brought in some prairie dogs somewhere in the Midwest, brought them in from Africa, Now, I don't know if they eat prairie dogs out in the Midwest, or I don't know how it made its way from prairie dogs to humans, but it did. And nobody died. Nobody has ever died from it outside of Africa. And I would imagine it's because of the poor healthcare conditions that they have there, right? There's nobody around to
Probably,
really
yeah.
help you. You know, you're sitting around in a tent. It's not like you're going to go right down the block to urgent care. And
Right.
so that's probably the reason there.
All
But
right. So
it
Kathy's
yeah,
asking. Kathy actually asked a question. How many people got it back then?
back when?
I think
Because
when
it's
you were saying earlier, like when it was a thing, like when monkeypox was a thing. So I don't remember
well,
exactly what year.
I can cover a couple of rough time frames. So in the 80s, there was a breakout, and the most that was recorded, I believe, uh, then was somewhere in the 40 range, 40, 50 people.
All right.
Um,
So
in the
yeah,
90s, maybe 480 people.
yeah.
Um,
So that's peanuts from virus
yeah,
standpoint. So
look,
like, but now
it's
we don't
definitely
know, right? What gain of function, like, like we don't know what these dudes are doing in these laboratories now. And it's like all of a sudden, they're gonna bust out and be like, it's mutated and is now airborne. Of course, it happened in nature, and it's gonna be
right,
like,
right, yeah. And meanwhile, it was done over in the Wuhan lab, right? Um, but hey, I do want to caution you and our listeners to be on the lookout for information that's coming across Facebook and other social media platforms. Um, I'll answer that in a minute, Sheila. I just want to make a quick point. Um, but it's important to understand that right now, those of us that are kind of fed up over what occurred with COVID, if whenever you look for evil, you will find it, right? And I want to be careful that we don't make that mistake here and press this too far. I've been seeing people sending out or posting pictures of people with monkeypox and people with shingles, right? But if you go beyond that and you look deeper, so monkeypox is a type of pox that is similar to smallpox. Shingles originates from chickenpox. They're two different things
so
altogether.
you're saying a puck is not a puck?
A pox is not a pox. A
Nah.
pox on your house doesn't necessarily mean it's the same pox for each house. Um, the fact of the matter is that people are now sending out pictures that are identical markings, and those markings are not correct. Somebody gathered up pictures and put it out there. Now, what their intent was, I don't know, but now
Well,
I
this
know
is
that
that
they're
fear mongering that we were talking about earlier, right? Where like
yeah,
this,
it's
this,
it's
this is
that
like the people who all thought that the WHO was going to be coming in and taking over the sovereignty of the United States. Like all of these things are easy to believe because the world is so upside down right now, and these
right,
people, like, there's so much real stuff that is going on that maybe a few years ago you'd have been like, no freaking way. That it's like opening the doors for some of these people to start coming up with these crazy stuff that really, if you just stop and take a breath, like I mean the amount of messages I got warning me that why am I not talking about the WHO taking over U.S. sovereignty? And my response to it all is because they're not.
right,
And people didn't believe it. And we may have even lost some followers and subscribers over it. That's how heated people were getting about it. But then, and I told them, I said, look, just wait. Wait till this so-called deadline comes, and mark my words, no one's going to be having sovereignty. They'll come up with some story to be like why it didn't happen. And sure enough, at the midnight hour, it's like, oh, we escaped this one thanks to all of your action. And it's like, what action? What did anybody do to and if like, what action would someone take to stop them? These people are alone in Davos, like, in the middle of the mountains. No one has access to them. What exactly, where are you marching? What are you stopping? Like, if they wanted to do it and they could do it, they would do it. Like,
hmm
but that type of fear mongering is the same thing. Like, it's just people need clicks for their websites. They need, it's all clickbait, it's all madness, and you got to be careful because stuff is so crazy right now that sometimes something may sound crazy and is not clickbait. Like, you really got to be dialed in and just know, like, look at everything for what it is, right?
Yeah, you got to dig deeper. Well, and we always say that. I want to
And then,
address. Oh, go
yeah, I was
ahead.
gonna
Go.
say, go ahead.
Oh, so Sheila's question: is it true that less than 1% of the people who got monkeypox died? So Sheila, I don't know where you got that number from. So here are the numbers. So in
Probably
Africa,
even less than that, right?
no, it's actually more, but there's some talking points behind it. So you just can't go off of the percentages. So in the Congo Basin, 6.4% of the people that contracted monkeypox died. In West Africa, where it's a little more aggressive, about 10 to 10.5% of the people died. Now, uh, now, if you look at the
Not in the
cases,
U.S. though.
so I was just about to say, so if you look at the cases worldwide that they've ever uncovered, no one's ever died. So then the question becomes, is it a lack of care, right? Because you're looking at very remote villages and so forth, where the conditions exist for people to come in contact with these creatures or possibly eat them, get scratched by them, and so they can contract them, but they don't have the medical care and the attention to deal with it. Plus, in the Congo, some of the research that I've read also talked about the violence that was going on and the upheaval in the Congo. That's a whole nother issue. But the fact of the matter is, they can't really get in there and do the type of research that they
Right.
need to do.
We're just dealing with. I mean, you get it, and you're in the jungle, and there's no medical care. It'll kill you. But it doesn't take a ton of, doesn't take the most state of the art medical care to prevent you from dying from monkeypox. There,
Yeah, I mean,
no
look,
one in the U.S. is dying from monkeypox. Let's
no
just put
one's
it that way.
dying. No one's ever
Yeah.
died around the world other than in Africa from monkeypox, from everything that I've read. It doesn't mean that they can't. I'm not a doctor. I can't predict the
Right.
future. But I like
Sure.
Kathy's comment. We're now conditioned to be afraid. And, how many will bite me, right? No pun intended, is what Kathy writes. You're welcome, Sheila. So the thing is that, we are conditioned to be afraid. And that's why I wanted to do some reading and try and bring some clarity to this, both in my mind and then share that with you and our viewers, because we have to be careful not to just, jump and say, oh my God, they're at it again. They very
Right.
well may be. I can't say that. I have no idea if they're going to try and push this thing further. Um, I can tell you the only people that are recommended to getting a vaccine for this right now are healthcare workers that are treating people with monkeypox and people in research laboratories that are working around this kind of thing. Otherwise than
Yeah.
that, you know,
And we'll see where the gain of function goes with this. Like, I was watching some clip of someone took a clip of like a Fox News story of some monkeys that were like an accident that took place with a CDC vehicle or some kind of medical vehicle, and there were monkeys inside, and they were making like, and they were like telling anyone who came into contact with them to, and I'm just like, I'm gonna wait and see where that goes. But like,
like a
it
Planet of
just,
the Apes type thing. They
yeah.
they got out. Caesar's leading the charge, and they're running around London biting
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
All right. On
So
that note, I think I think we got the monkeypox thing down.
yeah.
I appreciate that, Jack. I appreciate you clearing that up for people because already they're starting with the it's the next and again these things can fester because the world's so upside down right now, and after the COVID experience with so many falsehoods being thrown at us and so many lies, and knowing that they were lies, you suddenly start to believe everybody. And there certainly are, look, it's capitalists, right? I mean, they're out there, they know they need clicks, and the more they can scare you to get into that click, the better their website does, the more eyeballs on the advertising they have there, all that stuff. And that's, it's just something and that goes for conservative, so-called conservative organizations too, guys. It's not just these wackadoo, websites. There are some that are out there that seem legitimate. Speaking of which, brings us to John Birch Society.
Hmm.
So, for those of you who did not see the video that I dropped on the John Birch Society, uh, I've been meaning to do this for a while, and there's a few others that I want to go after as well. But I went to John Birch first. If you're not familiar with John Birch Society, they're a long-standing conservative-minded organization. On most of their issues, I think Jack and I would agree that we're in agreement with the John Birch Society on most issues that they come up with. But when it came to convention of states, for whatever reason, this organization went off the rails. And so, I've been looking into some of the comments they're making. A lot of it is the classic runaway convention nonsense. But then they tried to make the case. Convention of States Project had put up a video of Scalia, Antonin Scalia. I would hope that everybody, at least our following, knows who Antonin Scalia is. He was a very well respected Supreme Court justice, very much a Constitution, hardcore Constitution guy. Very civil in discourse, but very hard when it came down to, does the Constitution say it or does it not? And that won him a lot of favor over the years in conservative circles and in classic liberal circles. People who can appreciate a constructionist judge were all fans. And even on the left, he got along well with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, even though they could not be more opposed in their opinions and the way things should be, etc. So Scalia came out in 1979 in a debate that was unearthed by Convention of States Project, and the whole debate was about Convention of States and whether or not you believe Convention of States was legitimate, not legitimate. And I want to give you a piece of what Scalia said, just to kind of make the case of what. And this is a whole clip of him, one of his responses.
The reason I feel it's necessary is, I think, the reason the founders put in this alternative method of obtaining a constitutional convention, that the Congress is simply unwilling to give attention to many issues which it knows the people are concerned with, and which issues involve restrictions upon the federal government's own power. I think the founders foresaw that, and they provided this method in order to enable a convention to remedy that. If the only way to get that convention is to take this minimal risk, then I think it is a reasonable risk to be undergone.
Right. And so he says a lot more than that. You can watch the other video that I did on it. He says a lot more than that. But what the key of the video was John Birch Society basically accused Convention of States Project of handpicking select pieces of quotes. You know the game, right? Where someone says something, you clip a piece out of it, take it totally out of context, and roll with it as if the person presenting it originally is being dubious. And so I watched this video, and I'm stunned that nobody had destroyed this video in the past. And please go back and check it out. It's like the last video we did. But John Birch Society, as I demonstrated in that video, did exactly that thing. And for those, I know there's a lot of conservatives out there that watch us and our followers, subscribers, etc. And I know many of them are fans of John Birch Society for other reasons and other positions that JBS takes. But in this one, the problem I have here is that if they're willing to do this here, because it's tactics what they used, right? Like, it's tactics. So they actually did exactly what they were accusing COS of doing, and like, it was clear. So they took a quote. To those of you who know, who listen to us, and we always advocate Convention of States, there's an element of deception here that's being used that really is a tactic that's often used by Marxists and by leftists and the hardcore variety, media, mainstream media, etc., to justify the end, justify the means with the ends, and try and trick you into thinking someone else is doing something they're not, gaslighting you basically. And so what they did. I mean, to me, I mean, Jack, you know, from years ago, John Birch Society was fairly respected in conservative circles. Like, I don't recall ever hearing anything dubious like this coming from them. Do you?
I don't recall. Well, I guess yes and no. I don't know about using the word dubious, but they've
This was
always
dubious.
yeah, this was dubious, but they've always taken that position. And what's interesting, and I didn't share this with you, George, recently, you know that senator that the guy that's running for U.S. senator that asked me to put together that promotional video, and he's
In
behind
Illinois, right?
Convention of States. Well, his right hand person actually is a member of the John Birch Society, right? And so I started having a conversation with her, and I said, "Well, what is it about the John Birch Society?" She goes, "Well, I joined it because they have a lot of educational classes and they teach us a lot about the Constitution and about America and history and so forth." She goes, "But they don't take any action. They do nothing." It's like she goes, I'm someone that wants to do something. The moral to the story is this: is
How
that
does she reconcile that though? Because that so for those that don't know what Jack's talking about, there's a is he a state senator or is he a federal
well, he's
senator?
running
He's
for
running
state
for it.
senator.
Yeah, so there's a candidate for state senate there that Jack's been in or he's been in contact with their people. And in reading on this person's bio, what's his name?
Bobby
Or do you not
Payton.
want to what?
No, that's fine. Bobby Payton. He's
All right,
running for
so
a
like
senator
I
in
went to his
Chicago.
website and I looked it up and I took a look at the guy. It looked like his platform was almost identical to Convention of States. So I was somewhat interested, but now like that's why I'm asking Jack now, how does this woman reconcile if all of his positions are that way? Like how is she, but it sounds to me like she's not really a part of the John Birch
No,
Society.
no,
It
no,
was just
no.
like
I
a
mean, she joined for educational purposes and she left them because of inaction. She never went down the road of Article 5, and I taught her more about Article 5 than she'd ever heard over at the John Birch Society.
all right.
Basically, she was learning more about how the government works, the legislative branch. It was they
Right.
have, and that's kind of the lore about them, is they really get into teaching you about how government works and the Constitution, legislative branch, executive branch, blah blah
But
blah.
like my problem with them now is like once I've demonstrated to myself and now I think to all of our viewers in that last video that like once I've demonstrated that someone's willing to be dubious on any topic, like I no longer trust that person or organization. Like if John Birch Society came out with something, 2 years ago, or whenever before I was, a proponent of Article 5 or actually went down the path to learn about Article 5 on my own, like if I had heard, if I had heard something come out of John Birch Society, I might have believed it. You know what I mean? Like, and
Mhm.
it's like why they would be so adamant against such a core power and it's not even that they're adamant against it. Like I could live with the fact that they have a different opinion. I can't live with the fact that they put out videos like that. Like I that's
Well,
where they lose me.
so you bring up an interesting point, and I want to touch on two things real quick. Is going through that litany about people wanting to go and get education from them. I can't help now after listening to your statements and you telling me what you've told me. And by the way, the battery on my computer is going to die in a few minutes, so I'm going to have to go get my power cord. So you'll see me disappear in a moment. Um, but hey, what if this whole educational process is some type of a ploy? Let's bring in the conservatives and wave the flag, but at the end of the day, they're fighting a different fight. That I don't know, but what I do know is I've gone to their website and I've read a lot of information, and I've tracked down some of the links that they have on their website, and the statements that they make were statements that were put in writing and signed off by organizations like the AFL-CIO. There's a lot of woke and unionized organizations that signed on for that and that are behind John Birch, which none of those organizations are conservative in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, they
Right,
do
that's
want to
what I
use
mean, like,
Article 6.
yeah,
I'm going to go get.
they want to use nullification. So go ahead, just grab your
Yes,
cord,
I'm going to
Jack,
go
and
get
I'll
my
get into
cord.
Article 6.
I'll
So
be back.
so for those that don't understand what Article 6 is, so they want to use nullification. You hear this a lot as well, nullification. It, it's basically saying, I don't want to get too deep and wonky about it, but it's basically their solution. Number one, the failure of it is that it requires electing officials. So they believe we just have to educate the populace and elect better people. Well, there's no way you're going to argue to me that we've elected bad people for the last 50 years. Like, there have been runs with good people in office and nothing changed. Okay, so I'm not buying the elect your way out of tyranny argument. But Article 6 with nullification is basically the state saying we're not going to do this. Like, if if it were that easy, the states would just do that. Okay, but it's incredibly complicated, and there's a ton of things that need to be changed for the states, all 50 states simultaneously, to say we're not going to. Like, it's just insane, and it's not permanent. And that's another part of it, is that it's not permanent. So, like, now you've got lawsuits going back and forth. You got the federal government suing the states suing the federal government. The whole thing gets messy and becomes nullification is the kind of thing that you do if Article 5 fails. So if we pass the convention and we get the amendments and the government just starts saying we're not going to honor them, then at that point, then we go ahead and just friggin' start dealing with nullification. I mean, that's like right before Civil War that you would get into nullification. So the Birch Society's position there is just BS. And frankly, I want to play the clip that you're going to hear. So if you're listening to us and you go and you try and bring this to other people and you start talking about it, I would hold off before you get yourself educated on the topic, because things like this are stuff you're going to hear. And you're going to hear a quote like this.
Here is a question from Seth Dawson of the Office of Congressman Denny Hecht. Justice Stevens recently suggested a constitutional amendment to modify the Second Amendment. If you could amend the Constitution in one way, what would it be and why? Justice Scalia.
I certainly would not want a constitutional convention. I mean, whoa. Who knows what would come out of that?
All right, so I stopped it there. I'm going to play the whole thing again, but I stopped it there because that's where the Birch Society stops it, and they don't even give you the prelude that I gave you. They just start with, whoa, I certainly don't want a constitutional convention. Who knows what would come of that? And they start with that and they end with that. And they don't tell you what the question was that was asked, and they don't tell you what his response was after that. And why does that matter? Because the way that they position that statement, if you just see it as a part of their piece, and again, watch my previous video on this, where I break this all down piece by piece. But when you listen to him just say, "Whoa, I certainly wouldn't want a convention," right? It gives you the insinuation. It implies to you that someone asked him the question, "Would you want a convention? Are you for or against convention of states?" Which is exactly what went down in the debates that were quoted earlier. But that's not what happens here. What happens here is it's put into the context of the Second Amendment, all right, and how he would prefer to go about, amending the Second Amendment. And he's saying, whoa, I don't want a convention for that. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want a convention on the Second Amendment either, right? But I'm going to play the rest of the clip so you can hear what comes after the "but," which is the next word after he says, whoa, I don't want a convention. He says, "but." And we all know what happens when you say "but," right? It negates everything previous that you said. So listen.
Here is a question from Seth Dawson of the Office of Congressman Denny Hecht. Justice Stevens recently suggested a constitutional amendment to modify the Second Amendment. If you could amend the Constitution in one way, what would it be and why? Justice Scalia.
I certainly would not want a constitutional convention. I mean, whoa. Who knows what would come out of that? But if there were a targeted amendment that were adopted by the states, I think the only provision I would amend is the amendment provision. I figured out at one time what percentage of the populace could prevent an amendment to the Constitution. And if you take a bare majority in the smallest states by population, I think something less than 2% of the people can prevent a constitutional amendment. It ought to be hard, but it shouldn't be that hard.
It ought to be hard, but it shouldn't be that hard. Right? We still lost Jack, so I'm going to. But the point, you understand that that's a very different contextual explanation of where he's coming from than just having a clip play that says, "Whoa, I certainly wouldn't want that." And especially in the context, one thing John Birch Society does often is try to parse where they play this semantics game where this is a constitutional convention. So they're trying to change the whole Constitution. And it's not a constitutional convention, as they continually are corrected by Convention of States. I think we got Jack back. There he is.
Here we go.
It's not a constitutional convention. It's a convention for proposing amendments. And at John Birch Society, I took this little clip to give you just to watch how ridiculous their argument is. They beat up their own argument in their own video. And this is why I can't understand why on earth, like, no. So I'm going to play you a clip from the video that I just put out. So it's going to look like it's still me, but it's from the video that I just put out to make the case, or to let John Birch Society make the case against John Birch Society.
It's not talking about creating a constitutional convention. Those words don't exist.
That's correct. The words constitutional convention do not appear in the text of Article 5, but neither does the phrase convention of states. Article 5 actually calls it a convention for proposing amendments.
Whoa, hold on. Did he just... Where did I hear that term before? A convention for proposing amendments.
A convention for proposing amendments.
All right, so that clip, to put it in context, he played that clip earlier in a list of quotes of trying to make the point that COS was trying to redefine what this actually is. So he acknowledges that nowhere in Article 5 is it called a constitutional amendment, a constitutional convention, and then says, but nowhere does it say convention of states. No one claimed that it said convention of states. No one claimed that convention of states was the proper term for it. Convention of states is the name of an organization who is pushing for a convention to propose amendments. They're two different things. But if you don't know any better and you listen to this semantic scheme that they play, it's like, it makes no sense. And then he goes on to read it from the Constitution, and then reads the exact same thing that COS supporters were reading to him that he used in his own quotes. So that's just the type of dubious nonsense that John Birch is engaging in here. And I'm in the beginning, I would make excuses for them, but, like, you know what? That little doo-doo, that little troll guy there, that, it looks like Bill Belichick like 20 years ago. Like that guy is I'm waiting for him to throw the hood on, right? But that guy is like openly being dishonest with everyone that follows John Birch and anybody who opens up that video online. I mean, am I wrong? Am I overstating this? Should I say be political and be like, well, he just misspoke? Like, that's a blatant, like, act of deception right there. No,
I agree. I agree, and I wouldn't call you wrong, because that's the job for your wife, not me. But no, you're not wrong. Look,
good answer.
Yes. The fact of the matter is they're an organization that appeals to conservatives and provides a lot of education that is accurate, but we've noticed inaccuracies, and those inaccuracies and opinions are shared by organizations and individuals that are anything but conservative. So when you start mixing that, that little soup around, it just doesn't seem to add up. Now, if it's all intentional or not, who the heck knows? But at the end of the day, I think what we've done, and you especially, is identified inconsistencies in their messaging that don't align with the values that they seem to, portray.
Right. And that was my whole point. And like really these videos that I'm putting out are really designed, as our followers and our subscribers go out and start having these debates and they go to conventionofstates.com and they go and they educate themselves through College University, which is really just a series of videos to get you up to speed, not just on cause, but on the Constitution in general. Like once you get yourself out there, you start locking horns with people, you're going to realize that these arguments that I'm putting in these videos are the only arguments that exist against it. Just like Marxist messaging, they get regurgitated and regurgitated and regurgitated. So understanding, like having a video out there that you could just drop on somebody, like when someone tries to tell you about how John Birch Society is against convention of states, now you could just paste the link and drop it in. Now you don't got to sit there and write paragraphs trying to convert these doo-doo-doos because they don't want to read.
Yeah, tell them
And
watch
that's what
this.
it comes down to.
Yeah, just tell them watch this, and then let's talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then so I'm gonna move on from John Birch because I don't have a ton of questions about him. So like in the end, I do have a full video out there on this. So like you could go out, check that video out. It's out. It just got dropped recently a few days ago, and breaks down that whole BS story from John Birch, at least as far as Antonin Scalia. But the point that I'm making in the video is that like if they're willing to just dupe you with this, like they'll dupe you with just about every argument they're making, and that's what it comes down to, is that they're just not being honest. And if they're not being honest there, when are they? So the next part that I wanted to talk about, Jack, is COS fire in Ohio. We're getting the ball rolling there. They had some hearings yesterday. And I'll tell you, the hearings in Ohio, I mean, it really brought out the best of the doo-doo-doos. Like Publius Holder came out of the closet herself to come down there and embarrass herself right there in front of everybody live on camera. It was phenomenal. I encourage everybody to take a look at the Convention of States YouTube channel. It was Rita Peters and company went ahead and did a little ditty with some clips of some of the people reading there. And there was all the opponents got to go first. And then at the end, they all just lined up and Mark Meckler just beat him over the head with a history book. Like, no, I'm kidding. It didn't go down exactly like that. But like Meckler did come on in the end. And there was a couple of things that I wanted to point out that I thought were interesting from those hearings yesterday. And one of them, Jack, I didn't even talk to you about this one, was, how we're always saying how legislators are different and how, how it's not, I'm trying to make sure I have, oh yeah, here it is. So how state legislators are different than federal legislators. And, people are like, oh, they're all lifetime politicians. And we're like, no, they're not lifetime politicians. Like, so listen to this little exchange from Meckler and it was a friendly exchange. It was just like Mark Meckler went ahead and in the process of just speaking was like, you guys do politics for a living. I do, and he got stopped by the legislator.
You do politics for a living, and politics are.
I'm a farmer. I'm a farmer.
How about not for a living?
I'm a statesman. Senator Craig and I are statesmen.
I appreciate that. You are, actually. I see that a lot in state legislators.
So did you hear what he said? I don't know how well the sound came over.
Oh, it came out good.
He said, you do politics for a living. He was like, I'm a farmer. Like, I'm a farmer first. He's like, I'm a statesman because I come here to do this, to do my service, which is how these positions were designed to be. And this is why the state legislatures are the most powerful entity in this country, because this is not their career. They have careers. They contribute to the economy. They don't just steal from it. They contribute to it. And those are the people that we want to put our faith in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want the everyday person, the one that's not
Absolutely.
collecting some outrageous salary and a lifetime pension and medical benefits and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. David Alakis is the plan the plan is to condition fear. So this is what Kathy was saying earlier, right? That they're politicians and actually more afraid of us. Watch A Bug's Life. There's
Yeah.
a line from Grasshopper. Once the ants figure us out, we're done. I actually remember that line because stuff like that stands out to me, and it was true. And he was talking about the grasshoppers had all the ants under control, but like that one ant was going rogue, and he's like, once they figure out that they've got the numbers, we're done. And that's very true, right? That's kind of how it works. But like in the state legislature though, that's not how it works. In the state
Well, they
legislature,
are the
like these
ants.
people know you.
Yeah, they are the ants, right? They're part of us.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, they're part they're the ants. They're not, they're not on the other side.
Right. And that's kind of the key, right? Is that like and that's the whole point. So like but so many of us don't understand how our government was designed to work, Jack, that it just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts, but at the same time I'm like let me not pretend that I'm holier than thou because in reality, Article 5, the entire process of calling a convention, all of this is fairly new to me. When
Right.
you look at the course of my entire life, this is fairly new to me. I mean, I only finished the research and really, saw this as being the way, maybe a year ago, and maybe a little more than a year ago at this point. But like it was around that time. And like so but like the thing about it is and the beauty of the convention is that once you see it, yeah, like once you see, you cannot unsee. So, like, once you see that this is the path, and you realize that this is the solution, and it really is the only solution to get the large issues, right? The big over like government spending, right? That's a big, broad issue, right? But you know what? This corrects that, right? And government overreach. The man you could stretch government overreach into all kinds of things the government has done, even just in the last 2 years, and then boom, you can just in that alone, right? Then you got the fiscal restraints, you got the overreach, and then you got the term limits. Like that's just a self-cleansing mechanism. The term limits are really designed to make the politician in Washington more like the politician in the state legislature, where this is not like you're not in this for a career. There's no career in this for you. Like there's service. That's it. Right? There's no, this is not something you're going to be doing for the next 35, 40 years. You'll do this for 6 years, maybe 12. And frankly, I don't even know why senators need to be in for six. Like if they decided to propose four for senators, that's good enough for the president. It's good enough for a senator. I don't know why senators need to be in for 6 freaking years. Not when they can't be pulled, right? Like if they repealed the 17th Amendment, then I'd be like, all right, if state legislatures could pull these guys out again, like we used to be able to, then I would say, all right, 6 years is fine. Because if they go stupid, if they just go off on a tangent and become a doo-doo, that these guys could just pull them out of there and move on, replace them with somebody else. But when they're in there and they don't leave for 6 years, that's too long for one run. Like that's too, in my opinion, anyway. Like look, like I said, and much like Scalia was saying, if you listen to the quotes that not that I played today, but the ones in the video I just put out when I beat up the Birch Society, in that video, he says, and I put it on the cover page for this, even though I had to redo this and now it's not there. What he said was, I just want to see it done once. I don't much care, he said, what the issue it is on. And he corrects it, says, I don't want it on something silly, but he's like, his point was, I just want to see it get through. I want to see it happen. I want to see an amendment placed. And the reason he said that, as he articulates after, is I want to get all this procedural crap out of the way. Like I want everyone who's arguing this procedural unknown crap, like just finish it, get it out of the way, run a convention, get it done, put forth an amendment, ratify it, even if it doesn't get ratified. Like just the fact that that we could demonstrate that it's not going to go rogue and it can't go rogue and that there's no avenue for that. Like that's enough to have the whole thing, to have the whole thing done. So like I mean that's just my take on it. But like like for me, and I want to get into. So here's an argument. So Jack, you haven't met Publius Hulda yet, have you?
I have not.
Yeah, Publius Hulda is one of my favorite of all the Deuterus. So this one, look her up on Ballotpedia. She's got a very interesting history of bad decision making. But she's an old school lawyer, or she at least at one point passed the bar. She let that die, and she left the bar in like 1989 or something like that. But was involved with all this craziness, which I don't want to get into because I don't want to character assassinate. She does a good enough job beating herself up. But I want to just go ahead and play an example of some of the like super duper duper doo stuff that goes on in these hearings. Like, I don't know how Mark Meckler keeps a straight face while these people are talking. And what's funny is in the clip I showed you earlier, and if you go and watch the Convention of States video, or you're listening to Meckler speak, look at the people in the background from him. They all have no cause stickers on their shirts, but they're all listening very intently at Meckler speak. Like, they're not against it. But here's Publius Hulda. This is going to be the first introduction, and then I'm going to go ahead and give more introductions of her. I'm going to do whole videos on her coming up in the future.
An Article 5 convention has always been about getting a new constitution. If we have another convention, nothing can stop the delegates from proposing a third constitution with its own new mode of ratification. This proposed constitution for the new states of America abolishes the states, converts them into regional governments answerable to the new national government. The states do not vote on this proposed constitution. Article 12, Section 1 of the new states constitution provides that it is ratified by a referendum called by the president. Here is the Constitution for the new Socialist Republic in North America, drafted by the Revolutionary Communist Party, USA. The Constitution 2020 movement is backed by George Soros. He wants a Marxist constitution. He is supported by Cass Sunstein, Eric Holder, and Marxist law professors all over the country.
All right, I'm going to stop her there. She just goes on and on with every doo-doo that's ever. Like, and this one, here's the Constitution proposed by McDonald's, and they want to take full control of the meat industry and put the Hamburglar in charge of the DOJ. like I'm just waiting for her to just keep popping these. She's like every crazy person in the world, like, has written that's ever like proposed the Constitution. She's like throwing it up there as if that's like any relevance to that on Convention of States and the Article 5 movement. Like all of those things, like, oh, and George Soros and his Marxist group, and this is a big one too. Like they've been selling this idea that Soros is promoting a Convention of States. So yeah, if Soros could get 34 states to buy in to a Marxist adoption, then, and they would write that in their resolutions, then yes, I can guarantee you Soros would absolutely do that. But Soros has not done it. Well, maybe he tried years ago, who knows? But like in the end, you ain't going to get one state, maybe California. Other than California, New York might jump on board. But then you've got two. You've only got 32 more states to go, and then you've only got 36 more states to go to get it ratified. Like, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense. But this woman like tours the country doing this is what she does for a living. When you look at her up in Ballotpedia and it says her political stance, it just says adamantly fights against Convention of States. Like, it's literally all she does. Dude. She just goes around the country spewing at the mouth about Convention of States. But this one was special because here she had all these constitutions. Here's one, and it's like, what does that have? Like, it has nothing to do with it. All these are just crazy organizations who have written these things up and they've never gone anywhere. But somehow she's like trying to tie that to Convention of States project as if somehow those could fit into what's going on right now with the 19 states. Like,
so
she can't.
Is she a member of any organization? Who's
No.
funding her to fly around and do all of this?
She's clearly funded, right? I look, that's the kind of money you can't find. Look, a good journalist, like if they still existed, a good journalist could track down, who's funding this woman, right? But but in the end, like this woman, she's marrying criminals, and like after they become criminals, like not like she married someone and then the guy became a criminal. Like she's got a history. This one, like she's a bit of a wackadoo, and like again, I don't want to get too much into that because I don't want to character assassinate her. She'll do that on her own. Like just doing stuff like that, is enough. And it's cat says I'm stealing doop to doos. It's much nicer than what. Yeah, that's why we got doop to do. That's why it is. There's no P though. It's just doop to do. But that being said, yeah, I may even make a shirt with it. Don't be a doop to do. But yeah, look, in the end, Ohio has a good chance to move forward. Meckler went in and did another good job. Fortunately, they let him go last. So all of these people, they come up, and what I want people to focus on when people are making arguments for or against something is, number one, are they insulting anyone? Are they doing personal insults? Because the second you hear that, the second you hear someone personally insulting someone else, immediately, not even knowing the rest, still listen, still, let the facts guide you. But immediately your antennas should be up and the flag should be raised about that person and the argument they're about to make. Because anyone who has the truth on their side doesn't devalue themselves to those things. If you're on the floor of the House or a state Senate, that's not a Facebook page where you're just on your personal account popping off at somebody. Like, I understand sometimes you get frustrated, you could pop off a little bit, but in the end, if you see people in a professional setting and they're resorting to tactics that are just belittling people and demeaning people, chances are those
They don't have
people,
anything else.
yeah, chances are that's it. You're listening to everything they've got, and it ain't gonna end well for them. So, and then look, you're hearing from us, from me and Jack and whatnot, and from people in the comments. You're hearing from us the arguments that you'll hear against the convention of states. Like, this is the stuff that's going to come up. Kathy said Hamburglar. Yeah, they're going to put the Hamburglar in charge of the DOJ. That's she didn't get. I cut it before she got to the McDonald's Constitution that she was going to put up there. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think Grimace was going to be handling immigration. I don't know how that whole Constitution laid out, but it is what it is. And then yeah, so she'll buy this T-shirt. So yeah, folks, these T-shirts are for sale. So on our website, you will find a link to our COS Patriot store. And then there's also, and if you don't know what it says underneath the T-shirt, underneath the saying, it basically has a hashtag for Marxism, hashtag Great Reset, hashtag BlackRock, hashtag NWO, and it's printed specifically small so that you have to work to see it. That was done by design. That's why you can't read it on the on the screen as easy, because you should have to work to see, right? That's kind of the symbolic point that we're trying to make here. So, Jack, any feedback on, I'm looking forward to Ohio, right? I think Ohio is definitely a key state that can and likely will come over. Of all the states that I look at, I put Ohio in sort of that Florida type of, that Florida type of category. So it's like, I don't know. How do you see Ohio? Like, you see them, to me, they're a conservative state. Like, I see them as a conservative state that's been having their ballot stuffed and turned them into a swing state. Now that I know the ballot stuffing is going on, like, now I look at every state like that.
Oh yeah, I even look at Pennsylvania like that in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, Pennsylvania is a red state through and through. I ain't even trying to hear purple.
It's look, we both, I'm no longer in California, but I was up until recently. You're out there, and as well as I do that, that far left Marxist type of attitude is really emanating from, highly dense areas, the big cities. Other than that, there's a lot of just everyday people. They might vote Democrat, but they're still everyday people, and they're friends of ours. And then the fact of the matter is, they're not that far off of the center. They just happen to, they just swing that way a little bit. But it's that other side. I just this is not a direct answer to the question, but I just read today that George Soros backed. He has 75 district attorneys across the United States that he backed. I didn't realize it was that many.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it. So, but
well, I mean, there's only so many you could track down, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, just us, right? Our second episode ever, we tracked down like 5 or 6.
Yeah, we went
right?
into detail on them.
Yeah, we went into detail. We showed all the links. You guys, if anyone's interested in the Soros DA thing, go back. You'll have to dig a little bit, but you go back to our second episode ever. You should be able to find it on YouTube, and it's on Facebook too. We went live to both, but like, I think it's easier to find though on YouTube. But in the end, we broke down the second half of that video was all laid out. All the links are put in there. Matter of fact, if you go to our website, it's probably easiest to find it there. Go to our website, click on episodes, and just go down to number 2. You'll see it there. The YouTube video is there, but all the links are there on the website because we couldn't fit them all. There were so many.
We did a lot of research.
Campaign trail and the state websites for campaign donations, not like a Fox News or a CNN website or article. It takes you down the path to each one, and all of these, Portland, Missouri, who else? We had a bunch in there. We had like 4 or 5 in there. All of them are funded by Soros. All of them were set on fire by Antifa, and all of them were under siege during the crazy riot times. So, now he's just expanded that influence further.
The crime, if you collectively look at those 75 areas where those district attorneys are in, their crime rate is 50% on average higher than anywhere else in the nation, right? And that's bringing it, across an even playing field. If you were to take New York and pull the others out, or take some of these really highly dense areas, the crime rates skyrocketed in New York. By the way, believe it or not, San Francisco just got rid of the district attorney that Soros put in.
So who funded the guy that replaced him? I'm just curious.
I have no idea, but they booted him because
that might be worth looking into. Because it'll be cute
I just
if
found
they
out
rid
today.
of him, made a statement, and then put another Soros person in.
Well, it could be, from what I understand, with a small amount of reading. I didn't dig into it, but from the small amount of reading that I did, it looks like the city council went nuts over the fact that their crime rate is just through the roof, and people are being put back out on the streets. In fact, people
That's
are coming
like the Giuliani moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, so they're starting to wake up. Anyway, who knows? Maybe there's something beyond that, where the person that's going in next is, also, going from the frying pan to the fire. But I have a feeling that's not the case this time around, George. I think they've had enough.
So Denise Richardson saying Paul A. Reyes, is he the new DA there?
I don't know. We'd have to ask Denise. I can't remember the DA's name from San Francisco.
Well,
duck, go. Don't say Google.
Well, for this you could put Google, because they love San Francisco.
Well, that's true. All right. I just don't want to promote it.
It's all just saying that they oust. Yeah, it's got to be, because it was Chase Bowden was recalled. But it doesn't say who it was that they put in.
Maybe Paul Reyes is the one that they put in.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because now that name Bowden sounds familiar, because we've had some discussions about him in the past.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm seeing a bunch of names pop up here.
Yeah.
She's got Pam Johnson Mills. Uh, who else? Jim Scott, Dan Croats. So I'm not sure. Denise, you got to give us some clarification on these names you're throwing out there because I don't know all these people as much as I would love to. Jim Scott sounds familiar though, but yeah, I don't. I'm not. I even looked up Paul Reyes, and I'm not. I'm not seeing anybody. But let's. Paul A. Reyes. She says so. Maybe that's why nobody came up. Let me see. Nope. I got Raul Reyes. I don't know. I don't know, but we'll have
I'll tell
to.
you what.
I'm gonna.
Let's. I'll take that one on. Let me look into since I opened that can of worms. Let me dig a little deeper next Wednesday. We'll just touch
Yeah.
on it
Okay.
real quick. All right.
That
There's
works.
another
That
subject.
works because
Oh,
we're
go ahead.
passing the hour. So
Yeah, we are. There's another subject that if any of our listeners are interested, I'd like you to look up what's called the Smith Munt, MUNDHT, the Smith Munt Act of 2012. And next week, we'll talk a little bit about it. But if you want to familiarize yourself with it ahead of time, take a peek at it. And this way, maybe you could participate with us a little bit more and keep the engagement going. I'm sure I won't learn everything there is to learn about it, but it's something that I want to bring to the party next Wednesday because I think it's important for people to know what it is.
all right. So there's some homework for you folks, right? You didn't expect to get that.
I'm telling you.
Come up in here and then poof. Said he had two sets of parents. One set that killed people, police officers and armed guards. The second set or elites. Oh, I'm guessing that's Paul. I'm getting confused by all the comments. I think that's Paul Reyes. So Paul Reyes is just a creepy dude who kills people. I don't know. But we're going off on a tangent, but definitely leave in the comments, folks. Any comments you have, you want to defend the John Birch Society, knock it out. Put them in the comments. We will get to it. You want to go ahead and talk about COS Ohio or what's coming up next. I know I know I saw a comment in here about
Iowa.
Iowa. So,
Mhm.
I'm counting on Iowa coming in. If you want to know the proper pronunciation to Dootaroo, then, by all means, jump in. But yeah, so we appreciate everybody. I definitely want to say thank you to everybody for jumping on. We are going to be on every Wednesday, 5:30. So it's a set time now. It's going to be every Wednesday, 5:30. We may jump on at other times on top of that if there's something breaking, like if something happens in cause or something's out there that's kind of a shocker or a conversation starter. We may jump on aside from that, but the staple day is going to be Wednesday at
5:30.
5:30, and that's 5:30 Pacific. So you're looking at 8:30 for our peeps on the East Coast. All of my Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts peeps, Florida, all of you. And then if you're some of our UK or or Australia or Kazakhstan or those folks, I have no idea what time that is by you. You're going to have to figure that out. I'm pretty sure you're going to catch the rerun. Although you guys do seem to get on live, which is interesting to me. It's really the only reason I stay on Twitch is because we get those peeps from other countries and we get that feedback. I remember we had the Ukraine conversation and someone from Kazakhstan, I got Evan, who's now become like a regular, and then and a few other people, another one from UK, another one from Australia, and another one from actually Russia, were all on making their cases as to, which I thought was interesting. And then, so here, he's a lunatic. All right. So now we know who he is. He's a lunatic. It was all over Newsmax today. So I don't really do Newsmax, but I don't have any problem with them. I just don't tend to watch that type of media anymore. I don't know if it's because I'm old or it's because I just don't trust anyone in this freaking world anymore. I feel like once scorned, that's kind of where my head is. But Jack, any last words you want to throw out?
No, I mean, this was a good conversation. We covered a lot of ground. I learned things about COS from you, and because of my research into the monkeypox, I learned a little bit more there to kind of like enough to quell any wild thoughts and of going down different rabbit holes, right? And so I thought it was a good conversation. I learned a lot, and we had some good engagement. So, and I'm thankful for that.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for being on. Thank you for the comments. Everyone across, let me just check Rumble here. I had people tell me that they can't comment on Rumble, and we've never seen a comment on Rumble. So I'm starting to believe that. But then again, Rumble is kind of Rumble is not exactly the biggest platform as far as where we get our viewership. So I'm hoping to grow that though. So if you're catching this on Rumble late, make sure you click subscribe. Actually, everyone should click subscribe on the Rumble channel, because if we ever disappear,
that's where we're going to be.
This is one of the main reasons actually that we made sure we had a Rumble account, is if we ever disappear and you're suddenly like, oh my God, there's no more, I don't see them at all anymore. Whatever happened to those guys? Chances are we've been thrown off and booted, and we've resided in Rumble. So,
and Lord knows we've been close to that, George.
What's that?
I said, Lord knows we've been close to that.
Yeah, we were on the last
step away. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? We're still here, still kicking, and still moving. So thanks, folks. Until next time, and we'll see you live next week, Wednesday. Hopefully we see you before that, because that means something big happened in COS. Until then, we'll see.
And like that,